Hi, this is Amir Anzor. I'm with a really special guest, Arjuna Ishaya, who is the author of two really wonderful books, 200% an instruction manual for living fully and chasing more and finding enough. How being in is the greatest foundation for everything you do. And that book, Chasing More and Finding Enough, was I read that in 2022, about a year and a half ago. And it was one of the most powerful books in 2022 that I read. It's a simple book. It's not a complicated, long book. It's really great. But as someone who's a 40 something, I'm 46 now, but I was just thinking about how it's impacted my life, and the lessons that you gave in that were really wisdom. So I would just like to start with, how can one get rid of fear in their life?
Just a small question to start.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's essential. I think you can't really be yourself or live the life you're born to live if you don't tackle that question first. Because with fear, there's going to be doubt. You're going to edit yourself. You're going to hold back. You're going to not do the things or say the things that you really want to do, that you need to do. So first of all, I think it's this kind of inner work is a priority then. It's not really because everything that you do and say and create and your relationships, your health, even, it depends on your inner state, and people don't realize that, I think, and that's one of the messages I was trying to get across in the book was so many of us in our 40s we create these beautiful lives on the outside, but without this inner foundation, of fearlessness.
So do you think we can live with fearlessness? Do you think that someone like, let's say, Barack Obama or Donald Trump or Rishi Sunak or these politicians, they've created a life of living without fear, and they've been able to do so much more, whereas another person might be like, oh, if I go run for politics, or if I do this, I might fail, and that stops them from really pursuing?
Hmm. Let me ask you first, what makes you say that those people you mentioned live without fear?
I don't know if they live without fear, but I know I live with fear, right? And
Uh-huh.
I'm an entrepreneur. I have staff. I have I have a family. I live in a lot of fear, and when I read your book, it cleared up. It just made me feel good, at least for a couple of weeks, that I was like, okay, I can get rid of it. But my monkey mind comes back to it, and I'm like, look at the hatred that any politician, for instance, I'm just saying politician, or even if you look at Elon Musk, they get, and
Sure.
that they ignore and continue to do at another level. Whereas a lot of times I get in fear. I'm like, am I going to be able to meet payroll, pay my employees, pay my staff, pay my mortgage? All is my son gonna turn out okay, or am I making big parenting mistakes?
Yeah.
Like those types of things come in my mind and my thoughts.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, the way you explained how you can conquer fear, and also maybe that we don't have to be continuously chasing that next thing, like, I work in the tech industry, so a lot of people are trying to be like
Mm.
Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk,
Yeah.
and there's only, let's say, a handful of those guys, right? And they might be, I have clients that are multimillionaires, but they're still scared. When I listen to them,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I am not doing enough, I got to do more. And I'm like, look, I'm just thinking, this guy's already made multi-million dollars, supposed to be okay, but even they are not in that stage of thinking that there's enough, right? They're looking at that next thing. I don't know. I'm guessing even Donald Trump fears,
Uh-huh.
but it just seems like, in order to do more in life, and you say we don't shouldn't always be chasing more, but they have calmed their inner brain a lot more than the ordinary person.
Uh-huh.
Would you say? Or
Well, I have no idea about them, but I think the most successful people don't do it for external reward or recognition. And I think sports psychologists have shown this time and time again, is that it is the elite of the elite do it because they love it, because they love the chase, they love the journey. It's not arriving, it's not the applause, it's not the gold medal, it's just doing a little bit better than yesterday. You know, it's these small steps that create something big. And as soon as we look up at the top of the mountain, that freaks us out, that creates fear, because it's so far, and how am I going to do this, and what will people think of me, and all of this external stuff. And so I think it's a complicated answer, but it comes back to being present. It comes back to understanding the fear of your monkey mind that you talked about, how it jumps everywhere to every possible disaster. It's learning to be content in the moment with what you have, but able to hold on the other side that vision, that journey, that passion to do things because you're excited by them. Now, not because you need them, because when I have this thing, then I'll be happy, then I'll be content, but because you're truly content in growing something, in the process, in the day-to-day stuff, in the making of something, not in the achieving of something. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense, and that's why I wanted to really speak with you and get you exposed to a lot of the people that follow my podcast.
Cool.
Is because you say that it's okay to be in the now, like now, and we don't need that promotion at work. We don't need that $1 million in our bank account. We don't need to lose that 6 kilos before we can be happy. We can be happy in the pursuit of the journey. It doesn't mean you have to be lazy or anything, but it's just that what you're preaching is right. To be happy, we can just make that decision right now, listening to these words, and be like, I'm okay. It's not when I lose that 10 kilos, or my kid goes to Harvard, or my I find that partner, or my company makes it IPOs.
Yeah,
we can do that. Otherwise, we're always chasing. Is that what you're?
Well, it's the paradox, like I talked about, of being a human, is that every single person I know is the happiest when it feels like we're moving forward, when we can see progress in our life. Mm-hmm. You know, and so many people are burnt out because they don't have buy-in. They don't see that they're in control of any aspect of their own life. And so first of all, it's kind of anchoring yourself and finding a way of, yes, this is my sphere where I'm growing, excelling, creating, contributing somehow. But at the same time, you have to be very, very careful with that unconscious equation that I will be happy when, because it always puts your happiness and replace happiness with peace of mind, contentment, fulfillment, satisfaction, whatever word you want. I will be satisfied when. It always places that outside of yourself. So you aren't directly in control of it. It's external, and it's always later.
And you work with so many people. I know you're based in the UK, but you're from New Zealand, and you basically worked around the world. You've been a monk.
Yep.
What are the biggest fears that people that you work with have, that are the typical things, like they'll run out of money? I don't know. What are the fears that you encounter every day in your work as a teacher? And
well, I think they're very common, but I think they're also very different depending on what stage of life you're at, whether you're a mother, for example, or a father. You know, these different roles that we have. But as you say, I'm not good enough. I need to do more to be respected, or just to earn my right to exist. I'm going to be homeless. The electricity bills energy prices will keep rising, and I won't, as you say, won't meet my mortgage. I won't be able to financially supply the life that I want. There's too much to do, not enough time, not enough resources. There's so much, but probably one of the biggest ones, especially with social media, is that I'm missing out. There's a whole world going on out there, and I'm not keeping my fingers on the pulse. And so we spend more and more time on our phone connecting and taking in and soaking in this information. I mean, recently I heard of a reading challenge that was, what was it, 52 books in a year. You know, so a week for a book. And I know I've certainly read one book in a week, but it's taken me time to digest it, to revisit it, to really understand it. And I think the world is becoming so thin, do you know, like an inch thin, rather than becoming so deep in a few certain areas. And I think that's part of the problem too, part of the common fear. But I mean, if you really want a common fear, you just need to look at your own self-dialogue, be really honest and say, what am I afraid about? What puts me on edge? What keeps me awake at night? What am I feeling regretful for, or worried about, or resentful for? So yeah, there's a huge amount. I'm sorry I didn't really answer your question, but yeah.
No, that's really powerful. I think just that talking about it and your book explaining about it is enough. Like when people read it, there's a sense of peace, because it's like, you're right, I'm chasing so much stuff. Oh, I gotta go for a run, but I should be listening to Audible so I can make the most use of my time of consuming a book and getting exercise and all these things that we're always on a treadmill. And one of my first jobs was in a big American consulting organization. And, you know, my job was to make big companies more efficient, right? Mm-hmm. And my own purpose in my 30s, I said, is basically looking at why Pakistan, which is where I come from originally, an average person there makes $1,500 a year, and an American makes $73,000 a year. And what I found is that people are content doing not much, right? So like, I don't know if you had this with because you were a monk, or you still are, from learning from India, like that there's a different sort of world than, let's say, busy London or like New York City. You would typically see the opposite. Like, you know, people are more. They you know, if you walk in London and Canary Wharf, people be running or like walking really fast. Whereas you go to, do they call it ashram, or your place in India, it'd be like peace, like as I would imagine. Is that right? Like you see the different worlds where you were saying to those people, you know, tell me what to read, tell me what to do, and they're like, you have your own journey. Whereas, you know, when you're on the corporate hamster wheel, they call it the rat race, you are constantly chasing more, the next promotion, the next thing. We as society have created these games that people tend to chase. Is that what you've found?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing. The way you said it was that society has created a game, and it's just a game, but we buy into it so much, we forget it's a game. We believe it's reality. It is the fundamental truth of life with a capital T. And it's just an agreed upon thing. And when you see it from that point of view, it becomes a whole different game, one that you can play with, but not one that can drown you, because it's not life or death. It is a game that you're playing. And when you have that kind of just a half a step back in your perspective, it makes a world of difference. So yeah, calling it a game is brilliant, and realizing that we get to choose to play it how we want to. We don't have to answer those emails at 2 a.m. We don't have to kill ourselves to move forward. And that's what I was trying to put it through across in this book, is that even in places like India, and I've never been to Pakistan, but I assume there's this split between those who really want to push and achieve and make a difference in the world, but we believe, and those who are after peace. And so many people who are after peace are almost like head in the sand, avoidance, separation, not engaging in creating a difference of any kind. It's really like an extended holiday, an avoidance of life. And so I wanted to join the two worlds and say, well, by necessity, you need to have both. Ambition, making a difference in the world is a fine thing, but peace of mind is necessary to do that.
You know, like I often compare and contrast two outlooks of my life. One is from California, because I work in tech, and you know, I meet people from California, and this is obviously, I'm very generalizing, and it's like, how do I change the world? I gotta do this, I gotta change the world, I gotta make my mark, I gotta be the next Steve Jobs, that inspiration of, and they have this anxiety about not doing enough in the world and not leaving their mark. And on the other side, I have, you know, my Pakistani background, where there's people literally reading the holy book in a language that it's, you know, it's in Arabic. They don't speak Arabic. They speak Urdu, but they read it, and that has such a big influence on life there, that I'm like, you know, that it's not necessarily, you know, when you're reading the holy scriptures, whichever religion you are, you're not changing the world. There's no advertising in the books so that you feel that you are not enough, and then you got to go out and conquer more. And so like I look at two lives of it, and before I was like, oh, we got to be like Californians, you know, change the world. But now as I turn a bit older, I'm like, what am I chasing this for? You know, like, why do I, you know, we're only here for a couple of decades. Even the Queen of England, who had hundreds, billions of dollars, ruled over 50 years, and you know, ruled about a fourth of the world, and she died over a year ago, and you wouldn't remember her until I just mentioned her, right? Even someone that would have left that mark so much more than any one of us, and they're forgotten. So, you know, we don't necessarily need to chase that more. Now, in your own mission and purpose, just tell a little bit of a background of your backstory of how you got into this, because you were living a good life, so you thought, and just tell us a bit more of your story, and then what has become your purpose in this life now that you feel.
Sure. Well, I think I was living in New Zealand, and I ventured down the corporate route of working my way up in a bank, and then I really decided, I fell in love with the outdoors. You know, I started kayaking more. I started being in the mountains, swimming in the ocean, surfing, and I just wanted to do that more. So I eventually became an outdoor instructor, and I was quite proud of myself because I set up my life perfectly. The most beautiful location, the flexible yet well-paid work. I had plenty of time, good friends. I had everything that I wanted on my success list, and yet none of it meant anything. Like I'd created the ultimate, I'll be happy when I have all these things, and I have all these things, and yet happiness, contentment, fulfillment, meaning, purpose, all of these things were missing. And I realized the equation was broken then. So it really became a bit of a search to find that, what am I missing? What am I doing wrong? What's life about? How can I do this properly, or in a way at least that really satisfies me? Because I tried sitting on my bum and it just didn't work. It didn't, you know, it was nice for a week, but I wanted to go do something. And whether that was an adventure or just the buzz I had from teaching someone to kayak or guiding someone in the mountains, it was so much more. So now really, I guess my purpose is to continue that inner work, like find the end of fear. I truly and utterly know that it doesn't exist right now within me. And to help, I mean, that's a beautiful way of starting this podcast, is help anyone who wants the same, have the same. To really get to master their own monkey mind and live the life that they were born to live.
So do you feel that your monkey mind has been mastered a lot more?
Oh
Do
yeah.
you not feel fear? Like, you know, you're an entrepreneur, right? You're running your own business.
Yep.
Arjuna Ishaya.com, right? That's your core business.
Yep.
Do you not get anxiety? Will I get that client? Will I make that sale? Whatever that anxiety that normal entrepreneurs do,
Yeah.
or you feel content going through that journey of promoting your business and writing your book and not having to worry about will it sell, or you know, like those anxieties that many entrepreneurs do get when they're doing their business or running out of money, or the challenges that come along the journey.
Yeah. Well, the thing I found is it always, I thought life was a straight line. You know, we'd start there and just I'd reach my goal. And it's more like snakes and ladders, isn't it? And once you realize that with every up there'll be a down, sometimes two downs, you go, oh, it just becomes part of the game again. And I realized that if you keep on track, especially with your inner work, your inner practice, the outer business of life, you still have to do stuff, but it takes care of itself. There are ups and downs, but it comes through in unexpected ways. I definitely know from past experience that every down is a lesson, so I can learn from it. And so in terms of that, the fear stops being I'm going to miss out. But I think it was and Tony Robbins, right? He says, is this happening to me, or is this happening for me? And just living life with that second attitude that it's all happening for me, even the snakes, even the downs, it's like, oh, cool, another part of the adventure. Not good, not bad, but hey, let's see what happens next. This is unexpected. So I think that kind of flexibility, that kind of present moment that I've been practicing for 20 years of being here and now and ignoring what the fears of my mind, have come through and been very, very useful.
Do you have a technique that when that monkey mind does come up and you take some breaths or you do meditation, or for me, for instance, I do journaling. So I just write it out to say, okay, what's on my head? And it just kind of helps me clear my mind up a bit. Are there some tips and tricks that you use that because I'm sure that even at your level of practicing that, those fears do come in.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And you know, numerous people pointed this out, but Stephen Pressfield, the author, let me get this right, The War of Art.
War of Art, yeah.
I'm sure you've read the book, but if anyone hasn't, read that book, because the beauty is he talks about uncertainty and the need for courage to do the things that you're really born to do. And the fact is, fear is a good thing because it means that you're on the right track. If you weren't filled with doubt, it wouldn't be important to you. You know, and I heard Bruce Springsteen once say that he was asked, do you still get nervous when you get to play in front of all these hundreds of thousands of people? And he said, no, but I get excited. You know, so it's the same thing, the same feelings, but you're just going, awesome. This is what I was born to do. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I want. And with that kind of attitude, as opposed to, oh, there's something wrong with me because I'm nervous or afraid or full of doubt, it's like, no. And I think, the more you just gently take that step, the next step, you learn that that's okay. But also the ability to mindfulness, the whole thing of meditation, of just being in the same places where your body is. And it just happens quicker and quicker, doesn't it? You recognize when you're ahead, worrying, chewing on something that you have no control over right now. And so you put yourself in your body and you can control what you can control right now. You know, and so all these bits and pieces, the Stoics, just the pure physicality of breathing or a mantra or locating yourself in the present moment, it just comes and gets you, and you realize that, you know, it's no thing when the mind pops up and says, what if it all goes wrong?
And you talk about the 200% life, how the inner game changes the outer game. what is that? How can we live well, firstly, what is a 200% life, and how can we live that life?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the Ishayas talk about 200% a lot, and I love it in terms of the metaphor of a flower. Like a flower has an outer beauty, but it also has an inner nectar, an inner perfume. And for me, it's the combination of complete fulfillment, satisfaction, anchored in yourself, nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing to fear, but living the fullest of lives. You know, really enjoying amazing relationships, enjoying everything money can offer, being of complete service to the world, having an amazing physical life. Because so often I was talking about the difference between peace and performance, or contentment and ambition, and it's the same thing. You know, it's just that's what a 200% represents, for me at least, is finding both of those things, even though they seem like opposites.
And then how do you what are your tips on getting to that place?
Well, realize it's not an either or. You know, it's not, you don't have to make a choice. Any spiritual path or any inner practice that says you must give up anything is wrong. It's never the thing that's wrong. It's not sex, drugs, and rock and roll that's wrong. It's our addiction to it. It's our attachment to the thing. It's your relationship to the thing that needs to change. And then ultimately you find, hey, you may enjoy those things, or you may, you know, I was doing this for a wrong reason. I was doing it to feel better, to deny, to sedate, to bolster myself in some way, and I don't need it anymore. So
would for instance, drinking alcohol, which many people do and they enjoy, you're saying it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you can enjoy, because I got into this like personal development thing, and it was like alcohol is evil, etc.
Yeah.
But you know, so many people, it's in their culture, you know, like they've grown up with it, like my Irish friends or whoever. And I'm like, I don't want to be that preachy guy to say alcohol is bad, because it actually serves many other purposes, like socializing, etc. Or now teenagers getting into these vapes, and you know, yes, smoking is bad, but it serves other purpose, that they might like to socialize together, or as alcohol, it helps people socialize and loosen up. What you're saying is that that's not necessarily that it's a bad thing. It's just maybe your addiction to it might be the bad thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've talked to so many people who drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if not all days of the week. But the guy I was recently talking to said, you know, I just realized that I wasn't actually on board. I wasn't actually driving in my life till sort of Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. And then I start drinking by Thursday. I had 48 hours of absolute clarity and energy. And I would throw myself back into, you know, this enjoyable, but really this haze of alcohol, which affected his sleep, his brain, his body. So that's when you got to look at it and go, well, is this thing that I'm doing affecting what I say that I want to do and who I want to be? But there's beauty in alcohol. I mean, the finest whiskeys and wines and beers, and you know, they're beautiful things. There's a lot of craft, a lot of enjoyment. You know, it's never the thing, but how we use it. You know? And same with sex, the same with smoking. I found out about a pipe smoking competition. And basically you get weighed out a certain amount of tobacco, and then you get given 3 matches. And the competition is to make it last, those 3 matches last as long as you can, you know? So it's the enjoyment, the quality of the experience, rather than, again, you know, our whole culture is based around quantity and more and avoiding and, you know, all this stuff. So, yeah.
And what are some of the people, like some good examples of people that have come to you that you felt, or they felt their headspace was not in the right place, and they worked with you for a couple of, or either one of your retreats, or worked with you, and then they really made a profound change. Like, can you give us some examples? I don't know, someone going through a divorce, or I don't know, being obese or something, and then they their mindset just moved them to a different place.
Yeah. Well, there's one guy a couple months ago who leaps to mind, but he came on one of my weekends many years ago, and but he came to work with me one-on-one just a few months ago because he was suffering these sort of stroke-like symptoms, like these. He would describe them like electrical storms in his brain, and things would shut down for various periods of time. But talking to him, it turned out he was in a very difficult part of his business. His relationship was extremely toxic. He was struggling with his daughter because of this toxic relationship. And he just had a ton on his plate, right? And again, he was trying to do everything. And all I got him to do was just stop and really work on himself in the present moment, look after his energy, regain an alignment with his true self. And from there, he was able to think clearer, make different decisions, handle the sale of his business. I don't think he sold it in the end. He changed the structure of how he was doing it. He got out of this relationship, and now he can have a much cleaner relationship with his daughter. And do you know, those brainstorms just don't hit him at all, really. I'd like him to slow down a bit more to get rid of them, but he's in a good place where he's managing them as he wants to. So, yeah.
And did you teach him meditation, or more about being just aware of his?
Yeah, both.
State?
Both. We had a lot of conversations, a lot of discussions about the necessity to slow down, step back, take a break. Like, he's been going for decades, and you can do that when you're in your 20s, and he's pushing hard, building, creating multiple businesses, and now he's getting on. Well, he's not getting on, he's early 40s, but it's kind of like building up. His bathtub is overflowing, and that's causing the breakdown. He's just carrying too much from decades of going hard. So yeah, part of it was the awareness of this, and part of it was the meditation technique that I teach, and really anchoring himself in the present moment and in his own presence.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that as well, because being in the technology space, there's just more and more content and ways to connect and everything. And it's just learning to let go and learning to streamline our lives, which is like a challenge. And I think this is why mindfulness and meditation are really taking off in, apps like Calm and Space, Headspace. They like, they've even made games out of those, to say meditation is something that you need a phone app for. But I have gone through therapy and coaching and various coaches, and everyone recommends meditation, but I just haven't gotten it right. Like, I don't do it. A lot of my friends were executives and CEOs, and they're like, you got to get into it. So just for someone who's not into meditation yet, what is meditation and why is it important? And where did it come from, and why is it important to do?
Yeah. I think the first thing is to realize that there's many different techniques in meditation. Just like there's different cars, right? Just because you don't enjoy driving a Volvo doesn't mean you don't enjoy driving a BMW, for example. It's different. Some work beautifully, some work clunkily, just like a car. That 50-year-old car, it's got its quirks. It might not work as smoothly as the latest Tesla, for example. So just understand that, first of all. Is just because you didn't find the right technique that clicked with you doesn't mean all meditation is wrong. Just because you don't find the car that you like doesn't mean all transport is, you throw it out the window, right? So what is it? It's a means of stepping out of the washing machine of your mind. The Tibetans call it the Tibetan word for meditation is familiarization. So what you're becoming more familiar with is how you get lost in your mind, how you get lost in the busyness, and who you truly are, even when you're thinking negatively or too much about something. Which is a different statement, because people don't realize that they have voices in their heads. And when typically they say, what voice? That's the voice I mean. The voice that's commenting, judging, evaluating everything and yourself at the same time. Constantly dialoguing. It becomes this filter to life. And so you don't actually see life, you don't actually see the moment, you see your commentary or your judgment or your expectation of the thing. So meditation is the ability, not necessarily to stop it, but just to step back from it so you can see clearly, so you can have a direct relationship with now.
Okay, so when we meditate, we stop everything we're doing. So we stop listening to music, we stop Netflix if it's playing in the background, we go into a quiet space, and we observe our breath, or how do we do it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's probably the easiest way. There's two things. One's a visual trick, and all it involves is just find a point. So maybe that's my forehead, maybe that's your laptop, maybe that's a point on the wall across from you. But just fix your eyes upon that point. But relax the vision and make it wide. So your eyes are just anchored on that little point, but you're noticing what's directly beside you as well. Yeah, so you're just staring off into space, gazing. Kids do this all the time. Soften the gaze, soften your brain, drop your shoulders. And here you are, calm, clear, present. Now from this, you can take a nice deep breath through your nose if possible, or through your lips. Drop it down. See if you can, instead of keeping it here high in your chest, drop it down to the bottom of your lungs. See if you can relax the belly enough just to feel the belly expand. And then as you exhale, the belly will come in, the ribs will come in. You can even do something like Andrew Huberman suggests, where you take a deep breath in and then a second top-up breath. That second one's much, much shorter. And then a long, slow exhale out the mouth, as long as you can. So you can even close your eyes and kind of keep that sense of gazing out into the darkness behind your eyelids. A deep breath in. Second top-up breath if you want. And then long, slow exhale out the mouth. And you can do that for as long as you like. I mean, we've probably done less than 10 breaths. And already your state has changed, right? And there might come a point where you just don't want to do anything at all. You let the breath subside. You're happy just to rest, to sit, to notice the quality of the moment. You know, maybe it takes some time because you've been so busy. The momentum of your days means that you sit down, you're a little bit frantic. So maybe the breath, maybe keeping the eyes open is better for you in that moment. Right? But you weren't particularly stressed, you weren't particularly anxious beforehand, and yet I noticed that you feel like you drop down a little bit more, right?
Yeah, the thing that I have when I go to meditate, I think, oh, I got to do something. I'm not doing something.
Yeah.
And then I know that even if I wasn't meditating, I wouldn't be using that time productively anyway, right? I would be probably scrolling on my phone or something.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is when you meditate, you are relaxing your body physiologically. You're relaxing your body, and if thoughts are coming in your head, oh, I gotta do this, send this email, I gotta hire this person, whatever that is, you let those thoughts come and maybe observe them, or do you try to quieten them, or what do you do with those thoughts as they come?
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So after I answer that, remind me, and we talked about how, but let's talk about why afterwards. Yeah, exactly that. You just bring your attention, you notice the quality of your breath, you really engage that little vision trick that I talked about. You learn to step out of your mind and into the body, into the present moment. And you just get better at it. You just get better and better, and ignoring, oh, I have to do this, or I should be doing something. Oh, I forgot to send that email. Do you know, all these little things that fire off, or, oh, I've got the perfect answer to that problem. You just learn to ignore it. Just like the weather's going on outside my window there. I know it's there, but it's not affecting me. It's not affecting us because we're inside. Through habit, we get lost and then we come back. You know, and that's the key thing, is it's not about not forgetting. It's about simply remembering when you can right now. And that strengthens your focus. And that's a very good reason why, is because in this day and age of mobile phones, we are so distracted, we have no ability to pay attention. And so what you're actually doing is, and this is, did I say this is part of the why, but it enables that muscle of focus, paying attention, being able to ignore everything else and attend, becomes heightened. And that doesn't happen without training. So that's a very good thing. But it's relaxed focus, because you see the tension in your belly and you go, oh, I don't need that. I can relax into it. You feel your shoulders up around your ears and you go, oh, hang on, I can drop them down. You realize on a physical, emotional, mental level, you can step back and you can afford to let go, even for the 10 minutes that you're doing this for. Right? In turn, that increases your energy, because you're actually relaxing on all those different levels of a deep, fundamentally deep level, which also enables a lot of healing to take place. You know, we're all carrying baggage from decades of the past, and in this deep rest, you can heal a great deal. So when you understand the why, you start doing it more and more. And you see people like Stephen Kotler, the flow guy, saying, you know, you got to do these things. You've got to take time to meditate, be grateful. You've got to take time to go do those flow activities, those things that you love, whether that's music or sport or chess or whatever it is, because that enables the flow to enter your work. But because we're so myopic on, I got to, you know, more is better, we don't realize how things like journaling, meditation, flow activities enhance our ability to, well, be more energetic and creative when we want to be. So it's a bit more on the why, and why you want to persevere.
I mean, what I see is that the brain is just a muscle, just like any other muscle.
Yep.
And so when you are doing these things like meditation, like the breath work, you're building that muscle. Because what I do feel as a computer scientist, I feel that our brains are getting weaker over time, right? Because you know, I even downloaded this app so that I could lock my screen time, because you know the aim of Facebook or YouTube and all these apps is to keep you on the app as long as possible, right? And so that's where the computer scientists are working to make you addicted to the phone, and you'll lose months and days. And like average person spending 2.5 hours a day on social media. And you know, to take that breath work, like what you just did with me here, was not even a minute, but like, how long would you say you need, and how many times a day should you go through that exercise? Or, I mean, I guess there's no right answer, but what would you say? Like, what do you recommend to your clients? Students.
Before I answer that, I'd say the very computer scientists who are designing all these things to capture your attention are the ones that are most precious about their own attention. You know, they realize they can't create something if they're distracted. And so how do you regain, like you said, yes, it's a muscle. How do you regain it? Any practice is better than none. and so I think it was 9 minutes a day done regularly is more than enough to fundamentally shift the very physical structure of your brain, to make it more flexible, pliable, creative, to form new connections as opposed to being stuck in the same old ways of thinking. So 9 minutes, it's not a lot when you consider, like you just said, when you consider how much time is spent surfing useless stuff. But it's like playing the guitar or learning how to do pull-ups. My pull-up coach, he said, just have a pull-up bar in your office there, and every time you walk through the door, just do a couple. You get strong, Or if you want to play the guitar, you just pick it up and play for 5 minutes, put it down. It becomes something that you do to integrate and set into. So maybe once a day, maybe twice a day you can do it. But also recognize that, have the intention to be present. And that means really recognize when you're getting sucked into fear, when you're being fired into something you can't control, when you're worried about this or that, when you're getting upset about something that you have no power over. Those are the critical moments, as well as that sort of quiet sitting down time is bringing that state into what you do and who you are.
Yeah, because when I was reflecting, I'm 46, and there's so many times in my life that I was worried and stressed about stuff that not happening or doing. And then a few years later, it's like, I'm like, what was I so worried about? Right.
Yeah.
So like, even now, the things that will bring me anxiety and stress and worry, in a year's time or 2 years' time, I'll be like, what was I so stressed about? Right. But what I find and what I believe is, if people read your books and go through, you've got courses and you do mentoring, you help that journey be better for people, right? So if they work with someone like yourself, they don't, we all go through this life of 80, 90, 100 years, but it's just whether we enjoy that journey or we go through it with anxiety and stress and all these things. Because, as I said, like, society has created these games, right? That money is a game. And I'm hearing about these games in China where if you do the wrong thing, your social score will go down and you won't be able to take the metro or something. So people are in like anxiety across the world, and do this. Now, how did you actually live with monks? Like, what is a monk? And what was their life like? And do they renounce all possessions and all these things? What is a life of a monk like?
Well, that's the reason I became an Ishaya monk, was that whole 200% of life thing. They said, yes, it's necessary to withdraw and retreat, to take time to really know yourself, know the tricks of your mind, know your fears, to overcome them. But then it's necessary to launch into life, because that's where you really learn. That's where you really learn to master fear, to master your mind. And so I wanted to spend more time there. And it was actually a little monastery in Canada when I was up in the mountains. When I became an Ishaya monk, I wanted to spend my life there. I was like, I'm not done. And my teacher was like, no, you need to get out there and experience this in the real world. It's worthless in this hermitage,
So what was it like? A place, like a house in the middle of nowhere in Canada?
Yeah, up this long mountain road. It was beautiful, actually. We, surrounded by pine trees. You could see the lake down below. But yeah, it was.
What do you do during the day? And like, this was like 2003 or so, right? Like, so this is before smartphones, or this is before smartphones.
It was.
And so, like, what did you do in that place, and how did they, get food and pay for heating and stuff? How did they get money?
Yeah, well, they charged me,
okay,
and all the attendees who you could come for up to 6 months, and there were people who came for 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever time they had, and so they charged course fees and things like that. But and then there were returning teachers who spent time there just to top up, refresh. but I mean, the day was really much spent a lot of time in eyes closed meditation. I would find a little hammock and close my eyes and go through my practice. There were meetings just about every evening where you would ask questions, talk about discoveries, be guided. And every Wednesday was silent. So not a word, no sort of sign language. It was just beautiful silence the whole day. So that was pretty much it. It wasn't serious. We played a lot of volleyball, which was fun. But yeah, it was really, yeah, time I reflect fondly on, and yet I'm very glad to take that experience. Like my teacher said, no, you want to take this experience and learn to have it out in the world with a family and a business. So I'm glad for that advice too.
But real monks, they don't even have a family. They don't start a family. They don't do
It depends on. It depends on the tradition, but Ishaya monks do.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Ishaya what is a monk, and is Ishaya like a subcategory? What exactly is a monk that we talk about?
Yeah, I would say a monk has taken vows, who have devoted to a higher version of themselves, maybe to a higher power as well.
Okay.
So for me, my vows were very, very. It didn't take a lot of deliberating whether I wanted to take these vows, because they were really aspects of, like we've been talking about, mastering fear and mastering my mind, becoming full of love and compassion and appreciation, and really a surrender to a life that would give me not what I wanted, but what I needed, which a lot freaks some people out. But if you think about it, we're so focused on what we want, and yet what's the very best for us is what we need. And seeing that meant I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'd like to take these vows. That sounds like me.
And you met someone somewhere that influenced you in this decision?
I got to a point where I wanted to learn to meditate properly. Like I tried reading books, and there weren't apps back then, but I went along on a weekend, and I enjoyed the weekend a lot. And I saw the potential of my practice, and I just wanted to go and deepen it. And so they said, well, we have this place in Canada. You can spend up to 6 months there. And, if you have the time and the money, you can go. And I was like, yeah, I do. So, yeah.
And why did you end up moving to the UK? Is that just a personal reasons, or like you were in New Zealand? You're from New Zealand originally.
I am. Yeah.
But why did you end up moving to the UK and setting up a life here?
I was just traveling and teaching, and I met my wife here, and yeah, I'm still on holiday. So yeah, we just met her, we got married, had kids. Everything just kind of happened like that. So it wasn't that I said I'm never going back to New Zealand. It was just that things happened in this direction, and so we decided to stay here.
And when you work with people around the world, do you find patterns in different countries? They have different thought patterns. Like an American might be, I don't know, more busy mind, and I don't know, a New Zealander might be more calm. Or do you find that, or someone from the city has a different side of mind than someone who's living in a countryside? Is there generalizations?
I think you could generalize, like I said, between men and women. I think you could generalize between whether someone has children or not, whether they're employed or they have a business. I think you can make generalizations between cultures, but in general, humans are humans wherever we go. I think that's the bottom line that I've found, is that people very much, they think I'm the only one. I'm the only one that's doing this. I'm the only one experiencing this, but everybody has their own kind of flavor of stress or fear, but it's very similar, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think that realization in my own life helped me, because I was like, everyone's trying to change the world or do this or do that, and they've got their own stuff on their plate. You're nobody special, which kind of helped me realize something that maybe in my 30s I was like, oh, I'm born to do this or that. But it's just that everyone's got their own journey, and they're going through that. So, okay, parting advice for people wanting a happier journey and living their 200% life. What would you say to get started for people to do that?
I would just say, just slow down, stop, take stock, work out whether what you're doing is working, whether it's the kind of life and the kind of person that you want to be. And if it's not, there's so many different technologies and ways of finding your own path forward. But I think we get so busy, we forget to stop and work out whether we're actually going in the right direction. And there can be this sort of simmering sense of there's something not quite right that we keep pushing away, that we keep denying, and that can last for decades. And I think the sooner you kind of look at those things and go, well, actually, is everything working? am I being, as I said, and doing the things that I want to do? Then I would say that would be the first thing. And then just know that you're not the only one, that people have done this for thousands of years in different cultures, and that there's a way out. There's a way of, you can have both. You can have the impact you want to make on the world, but like we've been talking about, and I think so beautiful, is being completely free of fear, having nothing to prove, nothing to hide. So yeah, just know that it's possible, I would say, and to follow the breadcrumbs from there.
Amazing. Arjuna Ishaya, you have a lot of great material and content on your website, and you have 2 books. How would you say people get started learning from you? What's the path? They can do anything from mentoring to courses with you, but what's like a free way that they can get started? Or like you've got your 108 ways, or what would you recommend people check out on your website?
Yeah, I mean, I've got some free meditation audios that people can sign up for, and then I've just got like I think it's about a 7-page 108 tips to being more mindful. So that's there too, but you'll get the free audios whichever direction you go in. So yeah, or just connect with me on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever.
Perfect. And from my side, what I would say is read his book, Chasing More and Finding Enough, especially if you're, I'd say, like over 35, or, like I read it as a 40-something, and I was like, wow, that's really powerful book. So just read it. It'll just take you 2-3 hours to read, and that's a really powerful way to get started and help. And then also you can obviously check out Arjuna's podcast, and you'll see him on YouTube. He's got a lot of great meditations, etc., that you can learn from. So Arjuna Ishaya, thank you very much. This has been a conversation with Amir and Zor.
Oh, thank you, Amir. Have we got time can I give people a couple more resources?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a music producer called Rick Rubin who's done a ton of podcasts recently, and I think his approach to creativity, to making a difference in the world, I mean, he's produced some of the greatest artists in the world and made a profound difference to them. So if you're still not fully bought into that, listen to him, because he's got a beautiful way of talking about that. There's a programmer who was part of the team that came up with Doom, the game Doom. And he was interviewed on Tim Ferriss recently, and he talks about the power of being free from distraction and doing it for the pure love of it, the love of the challenge. And if you're interested in more, Stephen Kotler, who's I think it's the Flow Research Collective. He writes some amazing books on all things flow and focus too. So yeah, there's 3 more things for you.
How did you write your books? Like, how long did it take you to write them? What was your process for writing your books, and what made you write your book?
I think it was just recognizing I had to at some stage. It just bubbles out of you sometimes, doesn't it? These ideas. And the first one took 10 years probably to write, but when I actually decided to sit down and focus on it, it took 6 months writing to finishing. And the second one took a lot shorter time, just because it is a lot thinner, but also because I recognized the fear of what will people think of it's not perfect, and just was like, well, I got to put it out. I've done my best now. I've got to let the editors take care of it. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Arjuna. Just check out his books and his material, arjunaishaya.com. And thank you so much for your time and your insights. It's been really, really helpful. And I hope people that listen to it learn to slow down and appreciate life, and know that they don't have to go through the stress. That's, I read somewhere suffering is optional, so just life does not have to be suffering. Life can be enjoyed, and we can enjoy that moment. You don't have to lose that weight or get that promotion or close that big deal to just enjoy where you are at the moment.
Yeah, or do both. Enjoy where you are and lose that weight, and but do it because you want to, not because you need to.
Yes. Thanks, Arjuna.
Thank you, man. Thanks, Amir.